Welcome back, Lettuce Heads. Today is the last installment in this semester's Iceberg Lettuce, and we'll be covering some of the worst hazing incidents that have been caught. A pretty common fraternity hazing method is forcing pledges to drink considerable amounts of alcohol, normally by chugging. But surprisingly, water overdoses are one of the leading causes of deaths in pledges. In March 2003, Walter Dean Jennings III pledged Phi Epsilon Chi at the State University of New York when he was forced to drink numerous pitchers of water, often to the point of vomiting. He ended up drinking so much that his brain swelled and he died from water intoxication. In a separate tragedy, Matthew Carrington and a friend were pledging the Chi Tau fraternity when they were doused with gallons of cold water while powerful fans blew cold air on them. If that wasn't enough, they were forced to do calisthenics while standing on one foot and drink several gallons of cold water. And this happened during the winter semester. As any normal human being would, Carrington collapsed. He unsurprisingly had hypothermia and brain swelling from water intoxication and died 2 hours later. At Buffalo State College, a basketball player named Bradley Doyley was forced to drink something. Some people say that he drank sewer water, and others say laundry detergent. Whatever it was, the liquid of indeterminate origin killed him. Pretty commonly, fraternities will make their pledges drink unidentifiable liquids, but also quite commonly, they don't kill their pledges outright. At California Polytechnic State University, a pledge age 18 died of alcohol poisoning while pledging Sigma Alpha Epsilon. He was forced to drink as much alcohol as he could in 90 minutes. His BAC was .44, 5 times the legal limit to drive, and surpassing the levels of surgical anesthesia. In Tier 2, we'll be talking more about pain caused by a fraternity. Another super common hazing method is forcing pledges to chug milk. While drinking milk seems innocuous enough, your stomach can only physically hold half a gallon of milk before your brain automatically triggers your gag reflex and you vomit uncontrollably. Each pledge of Lambda Phi Epsilon is required to drink a spicy and thick drink known as death before you don't die but almost feel like dying for about 5 hours. The mixture is typically ketchup and Tabasco sauce, but the pledges are mandated to drink nearly 2 gallons of it before the hazing session ends. Most fraternities will have their pledges do some sort of physical activity, wall sits, push-ups, bows and toes, etc., until they can't do them anymore. However, some frats crank up the difficulty by adding a minimum alcohol requirement. As those that have drank any amount before know, the more alcohol you drink, the harder basic body functions get, like walking in a straight line or not screaming at strangers. Because of this, and the exhaustion from doing an inordinate amount of physical exercise, many pledges around the country are left unable to get off the ground, not even able to push themselves up or stand up off the floor. Tier 3 will cover more sororities. Sororities are much more into the mental games than fraternities are. Some sororities will make one of the pledges walk across a table in their underwear so that the rest of the sisters can draw on her body to circle the parts of her that need physical improvement. This form of hazing and psychological warfare is one of the more physically benign, but surprisingly common practices found in hazing rituals around the US. Another humiliating case involved a woman who was forced by the sorority that she was pledging to stand on a bench in front of an entire fraternity completely exposed. When she got up onto the bench, the fraternity would give public critiques by yelling out the parts of her body that needed work. After talking to one of the women that endured this type of scrutiny and humiliation just to become part of some social group, she said this happened to me in the 90s, and almost a decade later she still had emotional scars. Like the other two entries in Tier 3, boob ranking is another form of body shaming that sororities take part in that can create lasting emotional scars for their pledges. In this procedures, the sisters force pledges to strip off their shirts and bras in a cold room, then line up in order of breast size. The sisters then make fun of them and play mental games with their vulnerable and helpless pledges. And now for the last tier in the last installment. Tier 4 is egregious physical violence. At Tulane University, Pledges for Pi Alpha Kappa got doused by fraternity brothers using boiling water containing pepper spray and a crab boil seasoning mixture containing cayenne pepper to pour over their pledges' backs. One pledge suffered second and third degree burns all over his body, and 10 of the brothers were charged with aggravated second degree battery. In 1990, a Sigma Nu pledge at the University of Texas was savagely beaten with a hammer and a paddle before being set on fire during a brutal hazing ritual that ended in a massive lawsuit. An interesting note about this case is one of the main offenders was Mad Men's John Hamm, who withdrew from the school after the incident and returned home to Missouri. And the final installment is 3 students at Florida A&M ended up charged with manslaughter after making a drum major take part in a hazing ritual called Crossing Bus C, where the initiate must walk down the aisle of a parked charter bus while being hit and kicked repeatedly. It's similar to being jumped in by a gang. The drum major, Robert Champion, died shortly following the event.